All right, my name is Forrest Estes, and I'll be doing a presentation today on the importance of governmental action in climate change. See, we've reached a point in the climate crisis where it is ballooned to a point where it is beyond individual responsibility. We've gotten to a point where it's no longer a problem of how much can you recycle, what kind of car can you drive. We're at a point where, 30-some% of Americans are living in poor air quality. We're getting more hurricanes every year. Temperatures are rising through the roof. We've gotten to a point where individual action is no longer sustainable. So climate change is a deadly serious issue. And before we can talk about how we're going to fix it, we need to understand what our problem is and how bad it is right now. So right now on the topic of air pollution, we've done a lot to get specifically ozone out of our emissions. We have done a pretty good job of that. But with rising heat, we now have a new problem of particle pollution, which is smoke, dust, other little particulates that are getting into the air, especially as it's getting hotter. Things are drying out, it's pulling dust into the air. Right now, 36% of Americans, that's 119.6 million people, are living in places that are classified as having poor grade air quality. And that's mostly from high spikes in particle pollution, which is 63 million. And that's where, in the middle of the day, in the height of, travel and when the wind is being kicked up, you're getting the most particles into the air, which can then get into the lungs and be carcinogenic. Then moving on to the problem of our heat. Just yesterday, New Orleans broke its individual day heat record for the 5th day in a row. The day before yesterday, it was 98. The day yesterday, it was 100 degrees, and that was a first for New Orleans. And the problem with that, we might be an island, we might say, yeah, it's gotten to 100 degrees before, that's fine. The problem with it is that they are measuring something called wet bulb heat, which means they are measuring with a wet temperature device. This shows that the humidity is so high that when you go outside in New Orleans, it is 100 degrees and your sweat does not evaporate. So 100 degrees out in this level of humidity will kill you in a couple hours. So this is a very important problem that we need to deal with. And then, of course, Phoenix, Arizona reached 114 degrees. That's their record for currently. There's been a TikTok going around of somebody's rear light melting out of their car, although the legitimacy of that has been brought into question. And then, just July was averaging over 30 degrees over baseline. So this would be 33 degrees over what would be considered normal pre-industrialization. So that's before we are, putting emissions into the air. And then now, we can see what we need to do about it. And that's that we're going to be needing government action for this to work. So the reason we should be moving with government action is that we've had successful regulations before. I mean, under the Paris Agreement, our emissions are already going down. Under the Biden administration, he's passed some regulations that are tightening the requirements for automobile emissions. So they're making it so that the higher emission cars are having a hard time making it into the US. And then also the EPA has been doing a lot to basically cut ozone killing substances out of most things. If you've ever heard of the whole thing where people were using so much hairspray that it put a hole in the ozone layer, it was the Environmental Protection Agency that did a lot to reverse that. So governmental programs have worked before, and there are models from other countries of what we could be doing to help aid in our things. Specifically, Japan's recycling system is extremely advanced. They have like 6 recycling bins for every single different kind of plastic and paper. And if you do your recycling wrong, they will not only not pick it up, but they will fine you. And from everything I've learned, the #1 way to get Americans to do something good is fine them if they don't. So if we could incorporate that here, we could get a lot of our plastic trash, better distributed to recycling centers in the States. After, of course, China has stopped taking recycling now. And then also Denmark recently released their new climate action plan, which would be a green and sustainable world, yes. It's a very interesting read. It's like a 30-page document that the Denmark government sent out about how they are going to be moving forward as a green country, and it has made them the #1 rated country in climate action right now. And the main thing that Denmark is doing that's going to put them through the long run is they are making green options the affordable option for private sectors. And I think that's a big thing that we need to be focusing on. It's one thing to just put a emissions cap and put fines on corporations, but if you can make it so that the correct business decision for maximizing profit is to go the green option, you're going to get a lot more success than just by punishing. It's the whole idea of the carrot and the stick. The stick is really good, but the carrot is infinitely better. So that's why Denmark is going to be moving forward as the #1 country in climate action. And if we can pick up some of their policies, we can, make a big dent. And then finally, for the call to action, anything that we're going to be doing that's going to be requiring government action is going to be starting local. And I mean, here on house.gov, find a representative. If you felt moved by my speech, then I would highly recommend going here, and it will put you in contact with your representative in the House, and you can call their office or send them an email telling them that you are interested in putting forward new climate regulations that would help to reverse our current situation. And yeah, it's all going to start at the local level. At the end of the day, I think if we're working together and we're working with the government, I believe that we can do a great deal to reverse the climate crisis that we are currently in. Because as I said, we've moved beyond the point of individual responsibility. We need to be banding together and doing work as a group, as communities, and as a country to try to, basically save ourselves from this low-grade apocalypse that we've created. And at the end here, you'll see my bibliography, and that is all. So thank you all for listening to my speech.